Hey Josh, I was thinking for the next episode we could finally play a Mario game and start talking about one of the most important franchises in history. Thoughts?
I don't know, man. We've been putting off our first handheld game episode for a long time. It's been sitting on the shelf, and I just feel like it keeps getting pushed back further and further.
I just feel like talking about Mario is going to boost ratings and...
Objection! You and I both know this podcast isn't about ratings. You and I do this podcast because we're friends and believe in the final product, not because of the fame and respect.
That's all well and fine, Mr. Josh, but do you have any proof?
He's got me on the ropes. I'll have to find some kind of evidence that contradicts his statement. Hold it! Take that! As for proof, I'd like you to look at our previous 18 episodes. Although there aren't many views, we still do it every week, thereby proving that fame and ratings never mattered in the first place.
All right, Mr. Josh. Since you have proved your point, I want you to both play Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, on the Nintendo DS, and we will reconvene after a short podcasting recess.
Welcome back to the Quick Save Podcast. I'm Alex.
I'm Josh.
And today we are talking about Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney.
Ace Attorney he is.
Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney is a detective visual novel. It's our first visual novel on the podcast. It's also our first handheld game on the podcast.
It's also probably the most popular visual novel that exists, in my opinion, probably.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I hear about it talked about all the time.
There's like 8 sequels, so...
It's a detective visual novel where you play as rookie defense attorney Phoenix Wright. Ooh, the title.
Did you think we were not going to play as Phoenix Wright in Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney?
You never know, man.
They're going to switch it up?
They could just be like, and by the way, you're Jerry.
Your name is Thomas, unrelated to Phoenix Wright.
Attempting to solve his first few cases, the primary crux of the gameplay comes from the trials where you listen to witness statements and then present evidence to catch them in a lie. You can also press witness statements, further questioning them to clarify what they are saying. Beyond that, the rest of the game is broken down into a point-and-click adventure of sorts, where you investigate crime scenes and search for clues and evidence. In this mode, you also talk about potential witnesses and NPCs who may have important information about the case you are investigating. It's important to talk to everyone in this game. The first game consists of 5 cases, each tougher and more thrilling than the last. You join Phoenix Wright and Mia and Maya Fey, childhood friend Larry Butts, and fearsome prosecutor Miles Edgeworth.
Also, I do just want to mention, I think they do say it in case 2 or 3 or something like that. They mention this is the premise for the game. It's the far off year, the distant future of 2017.
Oh.
Well, we live way in the future here in Phoenix Wright World. 2017, we all use flip phones, obviously. Duh. That's how the world works in 2017 in this world. There were so many trials backed up through the court system that they decided to clear up all these cases that were taking up so much time in the court system. They would just shorten the process to 3 days. So you have 3 days in court to prove if someone's innocent or guilty. Period. That's just it.
That's wild.
Every case takes place over these 3 days. I think it's there will be a day break sometimes. It'll be you have a opening, day 1 trial, or day 2 trial, day 3 trial. Day 4,
verdict.
Investigate. Yeah, and then day 5, verdict. Yeah.
Let's talk about the plot.
Please, I'd love to. So there's 5 cases in this game. And we'll talk about some of that a little bit more in depth, because maybe there weren't always 5 cases. Interesting. So yeah, I'll go through case by case. I'm not going to spoil them for you. I did not. So neither of us had played the Phoenix Wright series, very critically acclaimed series. I'm in love with it. I was enamored, and I was hooked off the bat. I'm not going to spoil the cases just because I think if you really have not played this game, I think it is nice to go in fresh.
Definitely worth the pickup to play.
Yeah. Case number 1, the first turnabout. Our young rookie, Phoenix Wright, prepares for his first case, defending his childhood friend, Larry Butts, in a murder trial. The deceased? His very own girlfriend, Cindy Stone. Phoenix and his mentor, Mia Fey, must prove Larry's innocence against witness Frank Sawit. Get it? Frank saw it. Get it? Did you catch that? I saw that when I was typing this out. I was like, oh, the guy's name is Frank Sott. I get it. Case number 2, Turnabout Sisters.
Ooh,
which is
Sisters.
one of the most slapping tracks on there is Turnabout Sisters. So, what will Phoenix do when his mentor is killed with the same murder weapon from the previous case?
I love that they immediately kill her.
Yeah, I was blown away. We'll talk about it a little bit more. I was blown away that, like, case number 2, they're like, hey, remember your mentor who helped you out last case? She's dead now. Just straight up. Murdered in the office, even. Like, crazy. What will Phoenix do when his mentor is killed with the same murder weapon from the last case? The heat is on as Phoenix defends Maya Fey, Mia's sister, who is accused with the murder. Phoenix discovers some shady dealings with the local CEO and must do whatever it takes to prove Maya's innocence against witness Wright and prosecutor Miles Edgeworth. Phoenix, I will mention this for case 2, minimum spoiler. Phoenix is on trial at one point and he defends himself, which is a bold move for a lawyer to defend himself on his second ever trial. So
Bold move for anyone to defend themselves.
Yeah. You shouldn't defend. If you're in court, please don't defend yourself. Even if you are a professional lawyer, you should not defend yourself, probably. So, case 3, Turnabout Samurai.
Sisters to Samurais.
Okay, Sisters was, like, really intense. Samurai is, like, intense, but the stakes are less high because it doesn't involve Mia or, like, Phoenix. It's just, like, this is the one to kind of take the heat off a little bit. Because it's kind of like, the cases, like, case 1 is silly, case 2 serious, case 3 is silly, case 4 is serious, case 5 is kind of a mix of both. So, case 3, Turnabout Samurai. When Will Powers, the main actor behind the children's show Silver Samurai, is arrested for the murder of his co-star Jack Hammer, it will be up to Phoenix and his new partner Maya to get to the bottom of this backlot mystery. Case 4, Turnabout Goodbyes. So this is another really serious one. This one honestly is sad. I think I teared up a little bit during this one. Case 4, Turnabout Goodbyes. Rivals become defendants in this case as legendary prosecutor Miles Edgeworth is under the gun for, well, shooting someone. Phoenix must confront his past with Edgeworth if they're to fight this case together. And against Edgeworth's mentor Manfred von Karma, who hasn't lost a trial in 40 years? Maybe it truly is goodbye for our ace attorney. Case 5, Rise from the Ashes. I didn't play all this when I started it, but it's also, like, the longest one. We'll get into it. It's like, this case is as long as probably, like, 2 or 3 of the other cases.
Pretty much every case got longer than the one previous.
Yeah. And 5 is, like, insane long compared to the others. So, Case 5, Rise from the Ashes. And a bonus case for the Nintendo DS and all other releases. Teen Emma Skye hired Phoenix to defend her sister Lana, the chief prosecutor. Something's rotten in this precinct, and it's up to Phoenix to uncover the dark past of Lana Skye.
Ooh.
That one's kind of interesting. It's like, she's Edgeworth's boss, so, like, the stakes are high on that one, too. But let's
talk about price.
Please, I'd love to.
So, this was exclusively released on the DS.
Original. There's the remake trilogy,
which is on the PS4.
And even before then, there was, like, you could get an iOS version. So you could get, like, a phone app that was, like, the first game, Ace Attorney HD. But yeah, so this, I don't know if I think the trilogy maybe has a physical release.
The loose version, which is just the cart itself, $20.75.
Held up well. It's it's kind of like one of the true classics of the DS, I feel like.
Yeah. Like, I would feel like if you're looking for, like, an optimal DS portfolio to have,
yeah,
like,
so
just
somebody's
good
like
DS games, goes in there.
Somebody's like, I've never played a DS before. What should I play? This is probably a good start. So.
And then if you want it complete, it's gonna be $30 flat.
That doesn't even begin at, like, if we talked about the whole series, some of those games are so
I know. This is probably the
expensive.
cheapest in all of them, honestly.
Yeah, there might be like 1 or 2 that's cheaper, but yeah, I mean, some of those later DS ones are like $90, stuff like that, so it can get pretty gross. That's what you get when you have a well-loved series, right?
No kidding.
But let's talk about what we thought about the game.
All right, I'll start off.
Please.
And this is going to take a little bit of a turn from how I've been talking so far.
Oh, wow, Alex, you love this game.
Oh, my head hurts so bad. For my first Phoenix Wright game, and I say my first because it's going to be my first. I'm going to go on from this. I expected puzzles, Easter egg hunts, all this kind of like wacky, quirky, like it's a fun courtroom feeling, right? But this is on a whole different level than what I was thinking. I need to start off by saying, wow, what a great game. Even though it wasn't 100% my type of game, I totally understand why these games are loved by their fan base so much. But for me, this was an aggravating, headache-inducing game. The objections and catching lies were a blast, but at one point I kept catching a witness in a lie, and the game was like, nah fam, he good. It was such a frustrating aspect of the game for me.
There are moments where it's like, you're like, I got him, and it's not that sentence, but it's like the one after. Like, it's like, it can be kind of really granular at times, trying to find out which one you should object to and stuff like that. I was hooked immediately, and just for clarification, I did not play the DS original. I got the PS4 remake trilogy.
I did play the DS original, so we got both aspects here.
Yep, as far as I know, I mean, the only improvement is really just like graphics, and like menuing is slightly different. Load times are faster, but overall pretty much still the exact same game. I was hooked immediately. The cinematic nature of the trials, yelling objection, take that while unraveling these cases is just honestly really satisfying. It's super fun to think about the evidence you need to present, to get the witnesses to say a little bit more than they should have. You know, somebody will say something and you're like, oh, that's just kind of enough to give me a foothold to get in the door here and prove myself and say, you know, like, I'd like to call for mistrial for further investigation, stuff like that.
The fun parts of this game for me was the investigations and the cross-examinations. It's this big puzzle that when you get the clues and you start to form a theory and the idea of how it happened, you feel like you're really a detective. I mean, you're really putting pieces together. You know, you're the Sunny in Philadelphia, like, red string board.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, it all makes sense.
Can we talk about the mail, please? I'd love to talk about the mail, please.
But at points of the game, you fly blind. I mean, there's no instruction. There's, like, these hints, but the hints really aren't hints. They're just kind of like, remember what happened in the intro, or like, oh, remember when we did your introduction to the game and did a tutorial? Remember that. And it's like, it's just you and your judgment at some point. And it can be like really tough if you're not attuned to like this type of critical thinking, where you're like, oh, he said 9:06 and it happened at like 9:05, and I can prove that because he said that he saw a clock. And it's like, man, you really had to put like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to get back to 1 to say that, no, this is how it all happens and makes sense.
Yeah, it is, like I had said before, it is really picky. You really need, like, there were things, I definitely did look up some guides at times just because I was like completely lost on what needed to happen. I'm trying to play as much of the game before we like come to record as possible. There are times where you're doing a cross-examination where a witness says a sentence and there's like one word in a sentence is like, oh, well, he said this one word and that proves that he couldn't have been there, or, you know, like something so small like that.
Or there's like a piece of the evidence that says like, and they had this chip, and it's like a one-off thing, and then like halfway into the trial it gets brought up in conversation, and like if you don't remember that, you're just kind of sitting there going, what?
Yep, absolutely. I will say, and we mentioned this before, that we've never played any of these games. I certainly haven't. So I didn't know there was an evidence phase. I thought it was all just going to be courtroom trial stuff. So I was blown away when they started putting me into this like point-and-click adventure where I'm talking to witnesses and discovering evidence and stuff like that. They're mostly fun little segments. You uncover evidence that you can kind of usually guess how you use. Case 2 starts with like a phone call. It's like Maya and Mia are on the phone, and Mia's like, hey, I have this evidence hidden here. Just so you know, I'm going to drop it off later. Or like, can you come to the office and pick it up? And that's when Maya shows up and, oh my gosh, Mia's been murdered. And later, so it's like, there's this phone call with sensitive information, right? And then later in the case, you find a wiretap. Okay, well, you know, you don't have to have a genius level intellect to assume that, okay, the phone was wiretapped, so clearly whoever wiretapped the phone knew that they were listening in to steal the evidence or blah, 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 whatever.
Like,
right?
I remember that really clearly, where it's like, oh, I found the wiretap, but you found the wiretap while, like, technically breaking into their room. And so, like, it wouldn't matter in an actual court case, but they're like, oh, I have proof it's a wiretap.
I mean, that's pretty much the whole game. Oh, dude, it's the future. It's 2017, man.
The game loves...
Suspend your disbelief here. This isn't... What you know as a courtroom trial is completely different from Phoenix Wright courtroom trials, man.
It's just like, oh, you know, that hard piece of evidence that would, like, just immediately go... totally mistrial. This is like all fabricated.
Completely thrown out of court.
Yeah. It's just like, nah, we'll retake that.
Dude, I think it's one of the later cases. There's a case where your client, your defendant, gets a guilty verdict. They're like, yeah, your client did it. And then after the judge gives the verdict, Larry Butch shows up and he was like, objection, wait, I have evidence. I can prove that I'm a witness, so you have to reopen the case. And the judge is literally like, okay, yeah, I'll undo my verdict. I'm like, that's not how judges and trials worked. He would give the verdict, and that would just kind of be it.
So there's like something else, right?
I mean, this is also, recognize this. Wacky stuff happens in this game. This is the first game. Like, we're not even like 2 games in. The first game is like we're bouncing off the wall with like silly ideas sometimes.
I mean, there's so much about this game that I truly do enjoy. It's so like energetic and enticing. The story is very well put together. It will explain why that's kind of surprising here in a bit. There aren't many, but when there's a joke, it's a good joke. Like, every time it comes up, I'm like, oh, that was good. I may have come off a little hard on the game, but if it's really just only out of frustration of wanting to see it even better. That's really where I'm at.
It's like just struggling. Like, you want to play the game and see it, but you're struggling through these cases.
And like, I get it. It's supposed to be like puzzles and stuff, but there's a point where like you figure out the puzzle and they're like, oh, but we're going to change how it's done. And then you have to redo it again. And it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah, witnesses will give their statements like 4 times because they'll be like, oh, I just remembered that the murder weapon wasn't a bat. It was a clock. Yeah, I remember now. And the judge is like, yeah, that's okay. You can just do it over again. And you're like, bro, you cannot just do it over. That's freaking perjury, man. You said the wrong thing. You'd be thrown out as a witness. But what we haven't really talked about yet, a little bit, but is the music. The music really amps up the trials, investigations. Most unique characters have their own theme. There's a track called Pursuit. So it's like somebody says something and you catch him in a lie, and then you say that he says objection, and then the music just picks up, and it's kind of the perfect like gotcha track. It's just like boo-doo-doo, boo-doo, and it just like starts going, and you're like, dude, this freaking rules.
I remember we were doing research on this, and you're just like, hey, I'm going to open up Spotify and just start playing Phoenix Wright tracks.
Half the time you were like, this is a Phoenix Wright track? I'm like, yeah, it is. It's badass. But no, there's also, in Case 5, there's a guy, his name, I think it's like, I forget it's like Cody Marshall or something is his name. He's like a Wild West guy. And his theme is great. It's like a Wild West flute theme, which is great. This is a game about courts and murders, and this Wild West detective is there, and they play a Wild West theme, and you're like, this is a game about lawyers, and this is a Wild West guy, and they play the Wild West song, and it's very funny.
A little cha-ching, cha-ching from his boots.
Yeah, pretty much. There's like a flute playing Wild West music.
Your Honor, it's time for the Judge's Speed Corner.
Your Honor, I'll do the Speed Corner. We'll talk about 2 kinds of speedruns, original cases and all cases. Original cases is kind of like I had alluded to in the beginning. In the original Japanese version of this game, there were only 4 cases, but in the DS version, there is a 5th case. Like I was saying, that 5th case is super long. How long is it? Well, let's take a look. So the first 4 cases, the speedrun on DS is 2 hours and 15 minutes, and the speedrun on the trilogy, the updated trilogy, is 1 hour and 49 minutes. Again, I didn't watch everything. I assume it's just faster load times. I don't really know if they actually did switch anything up between case to case, if you can, like, some quality of life stuff, maybe. 2:15 on DS, 1 hour 49 on Trilogy for all of the original 4 cases. If we add in that 5th case, that's what the all cases run is. It's just adding the 5th run. All cases on DS is 4 hours and 16 minutes or 3 hours and 26 minutes on the Trilogy remake. So the 5th case takes as long or sometimes longer than the entire rest of the game, which is very interesting because this speedrun is really just a visual novel, so you're just essentially mashing the A button to skip text and stuff like that. It's kind of like definitely maneuvering through menus and presenting the right thing and getting, like, you're just mash, present evidence, mash.
Yeah, we were watching...
press, it's insane.
We were watching a speedrunner, and he was just sitting there just... click, thing...
Yeah.
Just like trying to push it through so far.
Mash, present, mash, press, mash, cutscene, mash, move here, talk to this person. Just like, it's insane. The menuing and the memorization you need is like wacky for sure. That's what I've got for the speed corner. We'll put a link down there. There's going to be a link to a speed run that I'll put down there so you can see some of the insane menuing that is performed. But yeah, please check it out. It seems really interesting to run this game.
It's crazy watching people do speed runs.
It's not very intensive. It's not something I think I would like doing, just mashing A for 2 hours and 15 minutes, but It's really interesting to see.
All right, let's talk about some fun facts.
I would love
So,
to.
I want to start off here. In the speed corner, we said, well, we're going to talk about the original 4 cases and then the 5th case, because on the DS, there's a 5th case. And I had said prior to that this came out exclusively on the DS to begin with. So how can there be a difference?
In America, it did. In America, it came out on DS. In Japan and Europe, it came out on DS. In Japan, the original name, I forget what it is. It's something Roundabout. It's not called Ace Attorney. It's not called Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. It's called like something Roundabout. That's why all the cases are called Roundabouts. It was originally a Game Boy Advance game. That's why I was playing this and my wife was like, wow, the music sounds really retro. I'm like, yeah, this was made for a Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, it started on basic, 16-bit GBA carts, got ported over to the DS, and they're like, hey man, we got like quintuple the space that we originally had. Let's add something to it.
And so now that's why Case 5 is insanely longer than anything else. So in Case 1 through 4, you can examine evidence. Examining evidence is like looking at a JPEG of an image, and then it's like, if it's a file, you can read the file, or, you can look at the clock, or, it's just looking and reading. But in Case 5 is nuts. This lady, she's a scientific researcher, so she's like, we're going to use science. So the science she uses is you can rotate items using the power of science. Like, you pick up a wallet, and she's like, let's use the power of science to open this wallet. You open the wallet, and Phoenix is like, that's not science. I didn't need science to open this wallet. She's like, well, maybe you did need science. The science of the Nintendo DS.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Exactly. So, yeah, the case is way longer because they have more space. They can add more things. You're rotating evidence. You're opening things, finding secret little clues and stuff like that. You can look at his attorney's badge, which I think is really funny. It has his like badge number on the back, which I think is cool.
Yeah, in just like the original 4 cases, it goes, I need this because people wouldn't believe me that I was an attorney if I didn't have it.
I'll be honest, I got tripped up on some cases. You have to present that to people sometimes. Like, you have to be like, look, I'm an attorney. And they're like, oh, you're an attorney, right? Like they're like, the beginning of like 1 or 2 cases, I'm like, what do I need to do here? And they're like, yeah, present your attorney's badge to this person. I was like, I guess I didn't even think about that, just because it seems like more of a set piece than a presentable item, but it's in there. So,
all right, let's talk our favorite game.
Who developed it? Yeah.
Yeah, let's play our favorite game here. Are they still around?
What's the studio?
This was developed by Capcom Production Studio 4.
So Capcom did it.
A
team of Capcom did it.
So tell me, is Capcom still around? Take a wild guess.
Yes?
Yeah, they are. It's amazing.
Great. How many people made this game?
Man, let me tell you something. Capcom looked at this and they're like, nah, fam. We'll scrub this off here. Put it on the edge, right?
You don't even know the half of it, my friend. The guy, I forget the name of the main guy who developed this game, like, he had worked on a ton of other huge Capcom titles. Like, because of him, some of these Capcom titles were, like, huge successes. Like, he developed a ton of this crazy stuff that was really popular. And so he did so well, they were like, just have your own development team and make whatever the hell you want. And so he made Ace Attorney. Like, he had worked on high-profile Capcom stuff. They were like, wow, good job. Here's your own development team and make whatever the hell you want. So that's how Ace Attorney was made.
How many developers did he have on that team? 7. There were 7 people that made this game.
And how long did it take him?
Well, here's the thing. If 7 people wasn't crazy enough to make this game, start to finish, production, and throw it out there, right? 10 months. 10 months they did this game. That is insane. That's like crazy levels of like, we're going to sit here all night and make this.
I have so many more little tidbits about the Japanese development team. They, all the voices in the game and the Japanese version of the game was just them. They didn't hire voice actors. It's just the development team saying like objection and take that and stuff. And the writing, he had never, so the main Capcom dude who made this, he had never written a game before. So what he did was he just literally like, Phoenix is like his self-insert character. He's literally like, okay, if this person was my friend and they potentially committed murder, how would I, like, what questions would I ask them to like try and prove their innocence? He literally just like, that was his writing style. He literally was like, okay, this person's innocent, but I don't know that they are. So what would I ask them? How would I talk to them? That's how he wrote Phoenix's lines and stuff. It's
which
literally
is so good.
He's just like, what would I say in this situation? Which is so funny.
And then adding on to that, like roughly 50% of the jokes
Yeah, you
in
said you're like there's not a ton of jokes. Beg to differ here. Yeah, because go ahead, tell them about these jokes. How many were rewritten?
Yeah, 50% were rewritten in scenes that were based on like characters that Phoenix interacts with, but instead of using the translations of the original Japanese game, they made new ones on top of that.
Yeah,
So you have like a partially translated verbatim joke, and then others are just like, we're making this up because the names make more sense this way.
yeah, like we know him as Phoenix Wright, but I think in the original game, like they had it, like his Japanese name is not Phoenix Wright; it was whatever else. So when it got ported to America, they had to like decide like what's a heroic, what is a name that would fit this heroic lawyer, and they came up with Phoenix Wright because I think in Japanese his last name is like kind of like the same as the word right in America. So you'd be like, hey, isn't that right? Right meaning correct. So his last name in Japanese is kind of like a play on like correct question mark, something like that. So they made his name Phoenix Wright because they say, isn't that right? Right, stuff like that.
And then not only that, but they were like shuffling around ideas of what to call this game because the original is called Runabout. That's why we have like you said the case Turnabout. I'm sorry, that's why we have the case names. But you found one that I think was really good.
There was like a couple that were really good, and this one actually kind of is referenced in the game. The best secondary title that this game almost had was Boogie Woogie Innocence.
Just so good. I think it's funny.
There's literally, I think it's the Turnabout Samurai case. There's like a wig, and you can like interact with the wig, and he's like, "What is this wig?" And Maya goes like, "Duh, it's from everybody's favorite show, Boogie Woogie Samurai," or something. Like they literally reference Boogie Woogie almost being the name of the game, which is funny.
Well, Mr. Josh, what has your playthrough of this game taught you?
I've learned to count on the ones you trust and have faith in the legal system.
Hold it! This trial was about what game to play, and we've spent the entire time talking about Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney.
Objection! I'm so close. I just need one more piece of evidence and I can finish this case. Now!
Josh, it's me, the spirit of Creflo. You're so close and we all believe in you. All the dumb joke character bits you've done believe in you. Just follow your heart and speak your mind about what you truly feel.
That's it! For my final piece of evidence, I'll reveal my favorites and least favorites about the game and explain why it deserves the backlog status.
Well, let's, as the spirit of Cremblo has instructed me here, why don't we talk about our favorites and least favorites about the game?
I think you should start this time.
Yes, please. Well, Cremblo told me to, so yes. I
don't want to disrespect Cremble like
that. Exactly. My favorite thing about this game is just the entire trial process. It's extremely satisfying to catch people in lies and expose the truth. I will say, though, for my least favorite, is that, like we mentioned, the clues can be obtuse. It is really kind of a struggle. You have to pay attention, read every piece of evidence in your evidence menu, and think about all the stuff you learned and saw, and you really need to, like, dig for some of this stuff. For instance, in Case 4, Turnabout Goodbyes, you need to prove the identity of a man by finding out how the name of his parrot and a safe combination relate to a case that happened almost 15 years ago, to the date. You discover this by reading a report in your evidence menu that has the information contained within. For reference, I think maybe once before this you've had to actually open and read a piece of evidence in your evidence menu.
Which I think was Case 2, and that was the autopsy.
Yeah, so it's like you need to open it and read it and look at it. So then in Case 4, you have to open and read this 3-page document and prove, like, there's some throwaway lines that you can't learn anywhere else. You literally only learn in this document, hidden away in your menu, where you can find the information about how to prove this guy's identity. I will say, though, even though it was tough at times, I seriously would consider this, out of everything we played so far, probably a can't-miss pick for me. I am in love with the characters, the music, the gameplay is simple. Literally, it's pick it up, play it for an hour, put it down, come back to a case. You know, if you're stuck on something, put it down. I looked up some guides and stuff just to play a bunch, but for the rest of it, I'll play a case, and then I'll put it down, and I'll, go to work tomorrow and think about, I wonder, blah, blah, blah. Then I'll come back kind of with a fresh mind and think about the case a little bit more. But I'm honestly enamored with this game. The whole world is so beautiful, and it holds up to this. I mean, if you go to YouTube and type in Phoenix Wright, there's no shortage of fan-made memes and videos and animations, and the characters are just really well written and have a ton of life in them, which really makes this game stand out.
So for me, the design of the story and the plot lines were incredible. It's no wonder that this has become such a popular title worldwide. Even with the limitations of the time, the game really stood out from the rest. And not only did it do that, but it was a handheld game, which back then, there weren't many handhelds that like stood out in front of everything else. Getting a quality game from a handheld, especially in 2005. It came out in 2005. It just wasn't heard of regularly. And it's a feat that very few handheld games had and still have today. The most frustrating part is just the constant backtracking for me. Something happens in a case, the witness retells it, evidence updates that, wouldn't be allowed. You show proof that they're lying and it just like slaps you back to where you started from. You have to start at the beginning all over again. I get that they need to build tension. Like it's a big part of the game to build that tension up. But that very tension is what almost drove me away from the game completely.
There's so much maneuvering, especially when you get in the later... I mean, you didn't even play as many cases as I did. Case 4? Oh my god. Go into the park, talk to the detective. The park opens. You have to go to the law office, talk to the lawyer. Go back into the park. Go talk to the hot dog man. Go to the corner, talk to the man in the corner. Okay, leave, talk to this person. Go to trial. Go back. Just like you move for... I literally explored every place multiple times, and then it's like, oh, you need to go here and present this piece of evidence you didn't think you were ever going to use to present to this guy to get more done. Like, I was backtracking all over trying to find what to do, and the answer's right in front of you. You have no idea. There's points where I'm just mashing, presenting every single piece of evidence to every single character to trigger one dialogue option to move to the next point. So it really can be frustrating if you're just like trying to do everything without a guide and just do it there. But
yeah, and like I said at the very beginning, this isn't going to be my last Phoenix Wright game. I am looking forward to seeing what future variations of this game have to offer. Because, this is the beginning. This is where it all started from. There's going to be tons of issues that, people have problems with. But really, at the end of the day, this is a good game. This is a game that everyone, I think, honestly should play. I was blown away with how well it was done, and especially when you think about the limitations that the team had, how their time limit was so short. It's crazy how good this game stands up to that aspect.
Yeah, it came out in Japan on Game Boy Advance. It was so good, they re-released it on DS with an extra case, a year later, less than, insane. It is the amount of work these guys did, and how it holds up so well is, to this day, inspiring me. They're still making new Phoenix Wright stuff. The Great Ace Attorney on Switch just came out, a little while ago.
I'm hopefully looking to pick that up.
I think I have them all except... I don't think I have Trials and Tribulations, which is the third one. I don't have the Apollo Justice one, which is a $60 game. I do have the expensive Miles Edgeworth one, and I do have the expensive Professor Layton Phoenix Wright one.
That one is expensive.
That one's expensive on 3DS, yeah. And then I will mention this. We mentioned this a long time ago in news stuff. If you care about this series... Don't forget the eShop. Nintendo 3DS eShop is closing next March or something like that, next year.
Yeah, it's the beginning of next year, I think, is when it officially will close.
Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies is a digital-only game. They did not make a release in America, so if you want the final... 3DS...
English variant.
Yeah, the final English 3DS Phoenix Wright game that came out on 3DS. Dual Destinies is digital only, so you need to pick that up while you still can. But why don't we talk about why this game deserves to be on the backlog?
Man, we've talked a lot about it already.
Yeah, pretty much. We've been giving this game nothing but glowing reviews here, but... Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney gave folks a look into a fantastical legal realm where every crazy character leaves a lasting impact. It put players in the driver's seat to bring justice to these crooked criminals who thought they could get away with their complex crimes. Not counting all the music videos and memes and animations on YouTube the series has spawned, the vinyl albums, anime, live-action movie, orchestra performance, and toys, figures, and crossovers, Phoenix Wright is all about the world and the characters within. Although goofy, the game is also filled with tense and dramatic moments, getting you invested in the characters and their lives. If you want to have fun and use your brain while also engaging with a bright and colorful yet deep and emotional world, look no further than the Ace Attorney games, pal, as Detective Gumshoe would say. He says pal at the end of each of his sentences.
There's a reason there's, 6, 7 games in the entire series?
8, at least?
There's 8.
At least. I think there's Japanese ones that are also unreleased.
Oh, yeah. We're talking, English releases here. But there's a reason that's there. Like, I came out of this frustrated. I have my complaint. But, man, I still can't say, this is crazy good.
It's also the first game, right? Like,
Yeah.
who knows? In the second and third game, right? Things might get a little easier. They might hit their stride and make the cases like
Or they,
easier to
they
understand.
just make them more sense.
Right.
But I mean, like, I don't think that even with all my frustration, I could ever tell someone, hey, don't get that. Like,
It truly is a classic of the DS.
it really is. It's something that if you own a DS, go out and get it.
Doesn't even have to be the first. It can be any of them. I mean, they all give you like a fine starting point. You don't need to know every piece of lore, right, from every single game.
Yeah, I mean, just, looking back, look at all the spin-off stuff it has. It has the toys and everything.
There's an anime. There's just straight up an anime.
There's so much.
There's a live action movie. There's a orchestra performance that was live streamed, and that was like last year.
I mean, I honestly think you could just say this is a worldwide phenomenon, which is crazy because before this, I had never picked it up. I'd never heard the music. Like, I knew who, Phoenix Wright was, but, like, I didn't know the story behind it. I didn't know, like, there's all these crazy characters. I didn't know that Miles Edgeworth was, like, a childhood friend of his. Like, there's just so much.
And Larry
dug
Butts.
deep.
They all
Yeah,
went
Larry Butts.
They all went to school together.
I mean, like, there's so much information in such a small game.
I'm gonna go look at all of Phoenix Wright's Marvel vs. Capcom like special attacks and stuff like that, just because I think I want to see what it looks like.
Go and check this game out.
Please.
Borrow it from a friend. Go out, buy it. Play it on the PC.
Watch gameplay online. Watch somebody play it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think there's a way that you can look into Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney and not come out going, that looks really cool.
Yeah, even if I'm not much of a visual novel person, just because a video game where you sit and read stuff sounds pretty boring, right? But this one, they make it fun. They make it really fun and engaging to bring justice to light. So
You will be invested in the world for sure.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, in case 2, they kill his mentor. I was invested in the second case, right? So I mean,
Yeah, that blew me away. Like, the biggest thing I played, I was like, they, like, brought her up to be like, oh, this is the lady that's going to get you through your first game. And then case 2, bam, gone.
I've got great news. She will continue to get you through aces. What does that mean? No spoilers. Exactly. I see dead people, as they say. But
All right. Well, thanks for listening with us today. My name's Alex.
my name's Josh. We'll put links below to our email.
We'll put our favorite Phoenix Wright videos below.
There you go. Yeah, we'll link some fun ones. Put that speedrun link below. But yeah, if there's any other questions, please drop a comment, leave us an email. We thanks so much for listening. Please send it to your friends, everyone you know. And yeah, let's hit the road. Take that!
Take that!
Hold it! Take that!
Goodbye!
Maybe it truly is the end of our. I'm gonna change that a little bit, and I'm gonna say it.